introduction.
Well, welcome. I'm Cynthia Sternquist, if I haven't met you yet, and I'm the mayor of Temple City. And I just want to thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedules. I know we're all very busy to come and help us with this library assessment. It's obvious that we all have a stake, whether you're young, old, senior, all walks of life. We all enjoy libraries and are looking for your input and to see what we can do to have the best library facilities in our city. So thank you again, and I'm going to
And I am Linda Demers. I'm a library consultant in Los Angeles. And let's start by telling us who you are. So you want to start?
Like entire high school introduction.
Perfect.
What's your name? And my name's Annie Chen. I'm a senior in high school, and
So this is a busy time for you right now. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Aldo Juarez, and I'm a junior right now in Temple City High School. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
I'm Cassandra Carmona. I'm a freshman in Temple City High School. I come here often.
My name is Wesley. I'm a real estate broker, and this is my first time as a volunteer. So hopefully I can put more time into the community.
I'm Rita Padilla. I'm a realtor also, and I'm the Hudson Chamber of Commerce. I'm Carol Ma. I'm a housewife and a single mom. I take my 2-year-old son to study in the library on weekends. Almost every day.
My name is Brian Matsumoto. I feel like I grew up in this library, but I work now as a landscape designer and landscape architect for the firm that's doing the Blasphemous redo. That's just kind of like a side coincidence, I guess. But I used to be a member of the Friends of the Library here, and I've always brainstormed big ideas. So I'm super excited to be talking about this stuff.
Great. Okay, I'm the mother of one daughter is 7, one is 16 years old. This year I begin to homeschool my 7 years old daughter because she's very advanced. So I try to find the public school cannot satisfy her, so I need to homeschool her. And you know, I'm not born in America, and so. That's a big challenge for me, and I use library a lot because my 7 years old and the 16 years old, they use different sources, you know, and very range books. And my 7 years old daughter, I need to borrow 100 books and DVDs, everything to feel, you know, to satisfy her learning. So Jessica and the person should come to this meeting. Okay.
Hi, my name is Tim. And I'm a local resident here, and I'm also the representative of the Temple City Chinese American Associations. And then I have 2 girls, one is 17, one is 12. They use this library a lot, so happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, I can always talk, but just on a personal note, this library is like home for me because when my daughter she's 31 now, but I used to bring her to this room for the library story time. And my son also, they're 10 years apart. So this library has seen a lot of use and gets a lot of use. And we all know that we need more space. So I'm hoping that we'll get there. But this library is, I'm sure, with Nanette also, she's raised her family here.
I'm Nanette Fish. I am a resident here. I have 2 children who are now out of school, but have both used the library. I am currently the director of the Cohen Festival and also a Parks and Recreation Commissioner. So I'm very interested in improving the library as much as we can, kind of getting some great positive ideas and see what it wants, and so it's what we can do.
us the County Library Regional Administrator, who's in charge of many branches.
Hello.
But this is her favorite, always, Susan. And, okay, this is a quiz. Which other person in this room is your community library manager? Is it A or B? And I hope some of you do know Giselle Corella from the city, who's the city's liaison project manager for this working group. And your position is your?
I'm the executive assistant to the city manager, so I help out a lot of special projects for the city manager.
So what we're going to do tonight is, this is part one of the needs assessment. And I can tell you, having done this for a bajillion years, that truly no two communities are the same, and no two communities need the same library services. So my part to start with is to go through some information and share it with you to help you make some decisions along the way. So I did a little looking under the hood and saw who lives here and what your demographics are, what's different and unique about Temple City, and then I'm going to ask you to help me with that. Then I looked at you and the universe of other libraries and where you fare, how do you match up with other libraries in the county and the state, and even in your own neighborhood, because we all know that San Marino just built a palace. So I'm sure everyone is thinking, wow, look at what San Marino just did. But they're not you and you're not them and you're not Arcadia, and everyone ends up with what they really need for their community. So we're going to look at benchmarks. We're going to look at a 5-year profile of what's happened here so you can see what trends. We're going to look at the county planning guidelines for what would be right-sized for your library based on the size of the population. And then I'm going to show you the results of the survey, which ended up being quite successful. We heard from 455 residents. And then I'm going to take you on a very quick whirlwind tour of library facilities around the state and particularly around LA County, which hopefully will get you thinking, so when we get to the visioning part, you'll have some ideas of what a family place can be, a teen center can be, et cetera, et cetera. So that said, we have two choices. We can either be totally in the dark, or we can be half in the dark. So is this looking okay to everyone? All right. So this is basically the path we're going to take today, and it matches the agenda that you have. We'll look at the demographics, then we'll look at the libraries, the standards, the survey, and then we'll do the virtual tour. You are a library service area. So Temple City Library Service Area is served by the County of Los Angeles. You're 6.9 square miles, and the population of your service area is almost 58,000 residents, which is not the population of your city. The library service area has a larger service population, and that's how the county allocates services, personnel, facilities, collections, etc. And your area is projected to be over 59,000 by the year 2020. So it's not so much growth. Here's what's really interesting to me is that there's absolutely nothing average about Temple City. Not one marker here did you not either appear at the very top or at the very bottom. You were not in the middle anywhere. You have the least amount of children under the age of 5 than the county, the state, and the country, and the least under the age of 18. So it's great that I think the whole population under the age of 18 is here tonight. The highest over 65. Your median age is the oldest of all of these groups at 42. You have the highest foreign-born population, even 10% higher than the rest of LA County. No surprise, almost 2/3 of your population speak a language other than English. So when you start thinking about planning library services, more senior citizens, more non-English speakers, already these are some clues that you start thinking about what that means for your service. Your highly educated population, you outstrip the state, the county, the United States, and the high school graduates. Your households are a little bit larger. And the median value of your housing, is this a surprise? Who are the real estate agents? It's the highest of any. It's higher than the county, the state, and the United States. And when I look at these numbers and I look at your per capita income here, which is 26,000, and your median value is 585,000 for housing, that means your per capita to housing ratio is 22 to 1, which is off the charts. For the United States, the average is 6.8 to 1. So that means that the typical house value is 6 to 7 times 1 year's income. Your typical house value is 22 times the per capita income, which probably means it's a very desirable place to live and it's out of the reach of affordability. And your mean travel time to work is 30.5 minutes. So I don't know where you can get in 30.5 minutes from here. Probably to the 210 based on the traffic tonight. So let's just take a 10-year look. You have less children than you did 10 years ago, less under 18, more seniors. The median age of your population has gone up by 3 years, which I think is a pretty neat trick if you can only age 3 years in 10. I'll try that one. The number of foreign-born has increased, language other than English increased, more educated population, bigger households, and the median value of your housing is more than doubled in 10 years. So 10 years ago, the ratio was 11 to 1. Now it's 22 to 1. So again, that puts housing further and further out of the reach for certain populations. And you can see your per capita income has increased by about 50% versus your housing value, which is more than doubled. So when we take a pause, this is what I want to talk about with this group, is the community strengths and the community weaknesses. What are some of the important values and the features of Temple City, and how could the library contribute to them? And often when you ask what a community strengths are, it might be the library, it might be the schools, it might be the property value, it might be natural beauty. You can tell when you've gotten into your community because the landscape is really good. It might be government. And when you look at what a community's strengths are, if it is typically the schools and other public services, what that says to me is this is a community that has a high level of expectation of services, and they expect the library to be good. These are the same values that would say we want our schools to be great, we want our libraries to be great too. So let's look at the benchmark. Your library right now has 0.2 square feet per capita. The average now for LA County branches is 0.35, and the average for California is 0.27. So because your building is smaller, all of the other benchmarks appear smaller. You have fewer seats per 1,000 residents. You have fewer PCs. You have fewer items, that's books, CDs, audios, DVDs, and fewer meeting room seats. So versus the other county branches, you are behind on all of the benchmarks. And this is one of the oldest branches, is that correct? 51 years?
Well, we have a number that are in that category.
Yeah.
That time period.
This is in probably the bottom quartile.
I would think so.
But built for a population that was much smaller. So I'm sure when this library opened, your population that thought this was huge. We'll never outgrow this. Well, we heard that before. We'll never outgrow this library. If you look at the whole state in the last 10 years, the typical branch is about 0.64 square feet per capita. And in California, it's about 0.63. When we get to the county standards, you'll see where the number would fall here. Output measures. Output is what is used versus input. And your circulation is lower. It's lower by 71%. But your collection is 50% smaller than the benchmark. So actually means your collection is working harder. It's a smaller collection. So the circulation is not as low as the size of the collection. But look at this, your visits per capita. Your building is substantially smaller and you've got 50% more visitors. Is it crowded in here? Yeah. I mean, this is a number that pops out at me, that this is a place that people come to. And when you have 6.77 visits per capita, with only 0.2 square feet per capita versus 0.6 from that average, and you're twice as busy. So that kind of puts one number way up and the other one lower. Your program attendance per capita is higher, and your meeting room is smaller, it's less appointed, and I'm guessing probably your staff does double and triple duty running all these programs, because you have really good attendance at your programs. Your internet use is lower, but you have a third the number of PCs as the benchmark. And your reference per capita is higher, which means the public uses the expert assistance available here from the library's students. How many of you use reference services here? Homework assignments, projects. How about other patrons? Do you use interlibrary loan or the databases? So this is a branch that's known for having really excellent staff. How about the government? Does the city staff come over and use the library?
No, not as often as we probably should.
Okay, that's fair. So you can see the pattern here. This library is a workhorse. On the input measures, you're far below the benchmark in every aspect. And on the output measures on the use, you're either at or above the benchmark. So what that says to me is, not this library user, is this is a community that really wants library services. And they're using it. And when you say this building is well loved, it's probably well loved and used up. So here's, I just threw this in for the heck of it, but there's some interesting stuff here. So who's your neighbors? Sierra Madre, Altadena, South Pass, Arcadia, and San Marino. And if you look across at the square feet per capita, remember that all of these others that you may hear yourself compared to are single city libraries. So they have a substantially larger back of house. They may have a friends organization housed in the building, and they don't have the back bench of the county. They don't have 9 million volumes floating out there in other branches ready to come to you. And they don't have expert county staff. So we never expect a branch to be as large as a main library for a jurisdiction. But when you start looking at these averages, there's spoilers in there. South Pasadena and San Marino. And have any of you been over to San Marino? It's 29,000 square feet for 12,000 people. I think everybody gets their own stack range. So here's look at your collection. 1.22 per capita versus 2s and 5s and 3s. But your circulation is actually higher than Altadena. And Altadena has twice the number of volumes that you do. And your visits are high, we just looked at that. And your program attendance is not up to South Pasadena and San Marino, but it's holding its own. The bottom number is, to me, one of the most important. It's turnover rate. Turnover rate means the total circulation divided by the number of items that you have. So if your total circulation was 100,000 and you own 25,000 volumes, your turnover rate is 4. Your turnover rate is double or triple the other ones on the board. What that says is that...
But I have attention, please. The library will be closing in 30 minutes. If you wish to apply for a library card, please visit the customer service
We can stay
now. Internet computers will be shut down in 15 minutes. Thank you.
That high turnover rate says to me this is a community that's hungry for more books, and that your collection is another workhorse. Your collection is circulated more, it's getting more use. So that's an area where if I gave you a choice, you have high visits per capita and you have a high turnover rate per capita. Now we're looking at two needs. One is more seating and more space. You're short on PCs. and your collection is being worked very hard. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good.
Everybody following me on this? So you kind of get the theme here, that this library is really working hard with what it has. Okay, 5-year profile. This will curl your hair. Your number of borrowers has stayed flat. Your circulation's gone down a little bit, which is a trend. More e-books, more online, less circulation of books. But look at your attendance. In 2008, you had 189,000 visits. And last year, you had 392,000 visits. That's more than 2 times as many visits. But the building is still 12,182 square feet. So I'm guessing that in 2012, it got pretty darn crowded in here. And the same with your internet use. You have the same number of PCs. You haven't really added many, but it's gone from 22,000 uses. And that's not your wireless. That's just people sitting down at your PCs. That's how that number is captured. Which if you divide the number of PCs you have by the number of hours that you're open, it basically means that everyone is likely in use between 80 and 90% of your open hours. And that's gone from 22,000 to 31,000. Your collection has been weeded down. It was 99, now it's 60,000, but it's a heavily used collection. Program attendance is flat even. You added 2 hours. And your reference requests have gone down, and that is very typical statewide, nationwide. And your reference requests were still off the chart, higher than the benchmark, even though they've come down by that percentage. So you can kind of see over the 5 years, your library as a place has gotten substantially more important, and your programs have held strong. And where you have dipped, it's the same place that other libraries are dipping. Now let's look at the county planning guidelines. And granted, these aren't new, and there's a lot of flexibility here in what the community can afford, what you can afford to support, what you really need, what you have the space for. But it's been suggested that a half a square foot per person would be right sizing for a branch. County of Los Angeles runs a little bit leaner, and their typical average now is about 0.35. So if we're looking at somewhere between 0.35 and 0.5 square feet per capita, that would be at the very top 29,000, and at the 0.35 it would be about 21 or 22,000, substantially larger than your 12. If you look at collections items per capita, 2 3/4, you have 60,000, so you're about 100,000 volumes short of what that cap on the guideline would be. Meeting room, business room, it says it seats 65. What does the sign say?
100.
Maximum. That's not what the county says. And I don't want to be in here with 100 people. Reader seats, you have 78. 147 would be if you were at this minimum guideline. Public computers, you have 20, it would be at 59, and you would have group study rooms and a teen area. Now, when we get to the programming part, where we look at what actually will fit, the content will fit, if we don't pick the 0.5 square feet per capita, if we pick 0.4 or 0.35, so we're looking at something smaller than 29,000. All of those other numbers need to be modified, because you can't pick the smaller building and then pick the top number for all the others. So one of the things that we're going to talk about at the next meeting is, well, the visits have almost tripled, but the circulation is high. Should we err on the side of more collections, or because this is a county library and we can get access? And because we have laptops and iPads, maybe we don't meet the guideline on the collections, but we want to meet the guideline on the meeting room. We want the bigger meeting room. And we want the number of reader seats, or we want close on the reader seats. And this is where it comes out different every time. A lot of newer buildings are really reader seat space heavy. Lots of group study rooms, small meeting rooms. And then, I mean, Margaret, I can think of 3 or 4 of your communities where don't touch our books. We want more and more and more books, the communities of readers. So this is what we're going to get to at the next meeting when we start looking at what the content might be. And there's an architect here, right? That's great, a couple of architects.
Council member.
So you understand the process.
Yeah.
The building program process, that when we get to the space needs analysis. Okay, so we were very lucky with the community survey that the library and the city helped us get the word out. It was online, and we had paper copies, and we had it also translated. So we ended up with 455 responses, which is actually very nice. And 74% of those respondents live in 91780. So that was really our primary responding group. The population by age was pretty evenly distributed and surprisingly very close to your own demographics. 20% of the respondents were over 65, and of your general population, 15.1% are over 65, so that was close. And then in the other groups, it was 17%, 18%, 18.7%, and we even got 8% in the 10 to 14-year-old range, which I never get. I don't know who gathered those, but that was quite nice to hear from those middle schoolers. So the seniors were a little overrepresented, but they're probably overrepresented in your user group, and they're overrepresented in your population, so that was fair. 44.8% of the respondents have children at home. And in your general population, 35.9%. So we actually got more people with children responding than represents the general population. Languages spoken in the home, 82.5%. English, 25 Mandarin, 17.3 Cantonese, a very small Korean Vietnamese, and 10.6% Spanish. So that's a good representation. If you add the 25, the 17, the 10, and the 2, we're getting pretty close to that 64% of the total population that speak languages other than English in the home. 76% have used the library, this library in the last year, and 82% have a library card. So there are some people with library cards who aren't coming in. You need to find them. But this is a smaller number. There were more people who are not library users who responded to this than we typically see. And I think it's because you took the surveys out to the park and to other places. We didn't just run it through the library, which is actually, I think, really great to hear that a quarter of the people who responded to the survey are not users. And here's what they use the most. Books, DVDs, magazines, free Wi-Fi. None of that surprises me. Books and DVDs. And I'm sure that if I asked you what your highest circulating items are, in order,
DVDs, children's books.
Picture books, early chapter books, easy readers, adult fiction maybe.
Adult fiction as well.
Come next, and there was a lot of requests for new fiction, new books. Only 86 out of the 455 had children's as one of their most used collections, which is interesting because that's 20% of the respondents, but 45% of the respondents said they have children at home. So they use other things more. Holds and reserves is a pretty good number. Here's the least used, up to the bottom. Downloadable music. Anybody here download music here? Live homework help? No? Large print books.
That's what I need.
Okay, now think about that. 21 people said they use large print books, but 20% of our respondents were over the age of 65, so that means that's 80. 80 of the respondents are over 65, but less than a quarter of them use large print books. Not a good collection, not needed. People have better reading glasses than I do.
Maybe they don't know.
Maybe they don't know. Maybe those are the people who don't use
Well, the
them.
books are not available.
The books they want are not available in large prints.
Yeah, that's also possibly true. So here's a place where you kind of get tricked by the data, and you say, 20% of the population is over 65. We better get more large print books. It doesn't feel like anybody's that interested in it. That's a clue that we can dismiss because we've checked it one way, and it doesn't necessarily hold true in the reality. Team programs. Maybe you don't have so many, or maybe they don't know. Or maybe that's pretty close to the number of teens that responded. If we had 30 people in the 10 to 18-year-old bracket respond, that's a good number. What does your community want more of? Yeah, just exactly what you said. New books, more DVDs, more adult fiction, and more children's materials. And then downloadable books, not so high here. 82, that's less than 20%, 455. School support, magazines. I was surprised magazines came out high in a number of questions. You have particularly good ones here? People come in and spend the afternoon reading magazines?
Yeah, we do have a lot of people come to the newspapers.
A lot of people come for the magazines and newspapers.
Especially in the
We have a good
Chinese,
collection.
World Gems.
You have a good collection.
We have a good collection here.
There's other branches where they just sit, and you canceled a lot of them because they use a lot of money. Adult nonfiction, pretty low. What's the least used? Look at that, the least used. The least to expand is large print. This is the, what do you want? They don't want business, they don't want parenting, they don't want databases. I forgot to ask, how many of you actually took the survey? Oh, good. Okay, well, here's a copy for those of you who didn't. Make sure that you fill this out before you leave today. We have a couple left. Local history, not so much. Audiobooks. Tell me about audiobooks with that 30-minute commute. They don't get used? Not too much? And they don't want more?
I know why, because I always want the audiobooks, but here really don't have much choice. And like when I choose for my daughter, I need to go to Arcadia Library. They have a huge choice, so I use audiobooks.
But this question is, what would you like more of?
Yeah, so I want more.
You want more. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
want more.
you're one of the 50 people who said we want more.
Yeah.
Okay. The other one that surprises me is world languages. Only 49 out of 455 people wanted to expand world languages in a community where 65% of the population speaks another language. Talk to me about that. You have enough, that's why they don't need to be.
Perhaps they don't understand what the word world language is meant.
That's possible.
What would that be?
Yeah.
Yes, I think this library need the most is the Chinese language. Any book or magazine or newspaper, but not. I mean, I just say for the because I come here many times, and I think it journals. The people join here, it's a lot of Chinese population. So they need a lot of, and they don't know they don't know English. They need help. That's why the usage is so low, because they don't know how to borrow books. I can say, because I joined the school and take kids come to the school field trip, come to this library, and have field trip. As science students, do they have the library card? Do they know? Do they ever borrow a book here? They say no. Even they just, that's walking distance to library. They never come to borrow one book. Why? Because their parents don't know how to use library. And those people help them. Jane is new in here. She's a new, right? She's right. So as I know, my English is okay, but many parents, I try to help them use library card, but they cannot. They're afraid. They don't know how to use. They're afraid to apply, to buy a book, how to return. They don't know. And no librarian really use language to help them.
You can renew your book online. A lot of parents
Don't know.
May I have your attention, please? The internet computers will now be shut down. The library will close in 15 minutes. Please bring all checkout items to the customer service desk now. Thank you.
I think a lot of service in here need the librarian can use 3 or 4 languages, like Chinese is the most important, and the Cantonese and that's most popular in here need that. And some information need to translate to Chinese so they can know how to use it. And they don't need afraid. They have Chinese assistants can help them, librarian can help them. I think that's the most important part.
You're talking about adults though, correct? When we say more materials in other languages, not necessarily for the children, but for adults.
Yeah.
Yes?
Because the parent cannot read English. They cannot read English. They cannot help their children.
So it sounds like outreach is a big thing too. Like
Yeah.
there needs to be a community, just how to use library.
Like instruction in Chinese or different languages, posted all over the place, and trying to teach the parents. You can review online if you don't have time to come to the library after dinner.
Right.
You know, if you get too busy, there's always other way to use
Okay,
it.
well this is interesting. This is very interesting. What services would you like expanded? Computer, look at that. I have to say, I've never seen computer training or computer access in the top 2. And then number 3, children's reading, so that's great. And then job career information and community information. And then falling down the list. So I've never done a survey before where less than half of the responses were done online. Half were paper in this particular community, which already was a clue to me that perhaps there aren't as many computer savvy people in the community as we often see. So when I see that 2 of the top services requested are computer training and computer access, and a feature is a computer lab, that puts us in a little bit of a different direction from a community where everybody's walking around with their iPad and sits down and gets onto the Wi-Fi and maybe needs to know. Maybe the reason downloadable music and downloadable books is lower is because this is a community where there's not a high percentage of people who are comfortable with that. Either they don't have the technology or they don't have the skills, or they don't know they can do that here. So I'm liking your outreach comment. I think that's really important.
Or perhaps even some downloaded books are not available in their language as well. I don't know if they're Chinese downloadable books.
I can't answer that.
Spanish, yes.
Interesting.
No?
All right.
We should make our own.
What features to include? Number 1 and number 2, quiet study and comfortable seating. And quiet study. So you guys have this big open concept floor plan here, which means if somebody in the teen area sneezes, you can hear it in the children's area, and somebody in the adult area says, bless you. When you see the smattering of comments, and we got a lot of additional comments, a lot of them spoke to the need for quiet spaces to go to and comfortable seating. Is there a chair from the library in here?
I'm sitting in one right now.
Okay, so that chair, that's your typical library chair. And we used to call that the 50-year chair. Because it's designed to last 50 years. But the truth is they call it a 50-year chair because after an hour it feels like you've been sitting in it for 50 years. They are designed to not have the patrons stay too long. The chair will outlast all of your customers. So there were a lot of comments that the teen area had more comfortable seating because it's newer, you just bought it, right, than the rest of the building. So surprisingly not, number 3 is a computer lab. And number 4, 158 people want a cafe. Yes, see, they want a cafe.
See our council member where he's at. It's at the cafe.
Actually, that is something that we're planning to have. If we were to have a new library, then we're going to have a cafe along the library on the first floor. And look out at the
Oh, fabulous. Fabulous. So top 4, quiet study, comfortable seating, computer lab, and a cafe. You could probably just open a Starbucks with Wi-Fi and have comfortable chairs and you'd have it covered. Okay, so those were the most important features. The least important features, and this surprised me because a high percentage of the respondents do have children. Storytime, family place, early childhood, large meeting room, not so important, and business support. And of our 455 respondents, 200 of them have children at home. So again, maybe they don't know what family place is, but you have a good one here. And maybe their children are older. Remember, your under 5 population is very small, so the early childhood area might not be as important as it might be in another neighborhood. Most valuable, books, CDs, DVDs, school, tech, community center. There's a whole cluster there at about the same, lifelong learning, teen destination. A lot of people spoke to the fact that the teens can come here after school. And the business, not so much. So as I said, there were more than 100 additional comments, and I just picked out a few. They'll all be in the final report, but people like the group study, and then again and again, a separate children's area, which goes back to the noise, goes back to the acoustics. Less distractions. How about modernizing it? Laptop stations, tablet, story time. Result of the internet I can get. Staff has lots of praise for the staff. Have to include that. Staff has always been helpful and kind. Pay attention to the seniors. The teens have lots of comfortable chairs. Why don't we? Flooding, chatting, maybe a wall to divide the kiddie area. Seniors have earned a little quiet time for reading. Here's one of my favorite. Despite the beautiful painting on the western wall, the rest of the building looks too prison-like. How about a little color around the place to liven it up? Well, they ain't seen nothing yet because the county library does color now. They do a lot of color now. So I enjoyed the survey results. I thought that a lot of people put some really good thought into their responses. Clearly the library is valued, but there's a desire for more books, more seating. Okay. I'm going to take you on a really quick virtual tour just to sort of point out some highlights from new buildings and remodeled buildings. Children's area, always important, welcoming. Let's turn the light off for this one. Nobody needs to take notes, and then you can see them a little better. Kids space. This is a great concept of flexible program space. This is one room that serves for story time. It's a teen lounge in the afternoon, and it's open so the kids can go in and read quietly in there. Destination story time. From the minute you walk in the front door of this library, you can head right back. You can see where the children's area is. It's good for wayfinding, bright and colorful. New open concept, and supposed to having a room like this with the door closed, spaces that can be used all day long for a variety of purposes. So, as we say, the open concept. Here's a couple more storytime rooms that also double as reading spaces. This one, I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. This is a little bit of a lesson of what not to do. Camarillo put a sunken Spanish galleon ship as their storytime room, and it encouraged so much play and misbehavior, jumping off the whiskey barrels, that they've had to shut it down.
The library will close in 5 minutes. The doors will shut promptly at 8 o'clock.
Okay. Another trend lately has been more interactive spaces in storytime rooms, working little planetariums. Temecula has a hot air balloon that crashed in the storytime area. This is one of the county's newest libraries in West Hollywood. This is a packing crate that literally just got dropped in the middle of the children's room. And when you walk inside the crate, it's a scale replica of the Laurentian library that Michelangelo designed for the Medici family. Then we've got parents and children reading together, as you mentioned, reading to your children. The chair and a half, big enough for two. Lots of places for parents and children to curl up together with a comfy book. Playing and learning. Playing is such an important part of early childhood learning. This I'm particularly fond of. This is the Sorensen branch, a new LA County branch. And these kids are clustered around these little play tables. There's love seats for parents and children to sit and read together. Lots of little toys, small manipulatives. Interestingly, in this project, the carpet has helped define the area. Even though it's just a different piece of carpet, the kids stay within the red area. Versus this one in Anaheim, which everyone in the library says, wow, that's a big messy mess. But it's kids having a good time. Lots of little manipulatives and Lego tables and booths for kids to study in and for parents and children to read together. A little bit of acoustic separation without building a room. Nothing like a great place to read. Cozy chair, a little nook in the corner, a chair with duck feet. This is the new fairy tale room in the Beverly Hills Library, and again, it's just a couple chairs for parents and children. Another thing that we've learned lately in libraries is that every space needs to be useful for 2 or 3 different things. And one way that we've been able to accomplish that is by wheels. The stacks can go on wheels now. So this is a display. When the display is empty, it gets wheeled away. That's the new book display on the right. It can be taken away and open out the area. The one on the bottom left is the Friends book sale area. So when the store is open, they get wheeled out. When the Friends aren't there, they get wheeled into the closet. There's the magazines on wheels and then the children's collection. So you can actually take a fairly small space, and by putting wheels on varieties of furniture, you can clear it out and have bigger program areas. This is a teen area, and they empty this out and they have karaoke night in there and gaming, and the chairs and the tables just get wheeled away. There's a business center at the Walnut Creek Library, and again, the chairs and tables, everything's on wheels, can be moved away for a special event. Customer service desks can even be on wheels. And these are on wheels, so if you don't need them in one part of the library, you can put them somewhere else. And these also raise and lower, so if one staff member wants to stand or the next one wants to sit, you can change it from a sit-down desk to a stand-up height desk. And what we call our desks now, we've got information borrowers, we have the accounts desk, we have Ask Us. If anyone could get over to La Crescenta, is that about 2 years old?
Yeah, about 2 years.
It's really a beautiful project. Sorensen is a beautiful project. This one, I just love the simplicity of it. So their desk is called Ask Us. Then we've got help, and this library in Anaheim, everything is in 2 languages, and questions and answers. Teen Zone. Gotta have one. Here's one that's a little bit wild, and I will say I'm not a big fan of beanbag chairs. That's all I'm going to say. Booths, places to work at the computer. I've seen as many as 6 or 8 kids jammed around this, 2 PCs, very comfortable chairs. This is in Tustin, so they have kind of a little laptop lane along the window and then some lounge furniture. Different things like graffiti walls, teen art, slam poetry, teen event spaces, group study rooms, floor-to-ceiling glass, maybe a place with a smart board you can plug in, whiteboards, close the glass and you've got some acoustical isolation. These are very popular. As many as you have we put in, they're filled. This is the local history room in the new West Hollywood Library. It also doubles as a group study room. Quiet is back. Quiet went away for a while, and now more and more our customers are asking us for quiet spaces. It's very hard to keep the whole library quiet. So we can carve out niches, quiet reading rooms, little quiet study spaces, quiet zones in the library. And that came out pretty loud and clear in your survey, that a lot of your customers do want some quiet.
If you ever try white noise, does that work in the library?
I think the general ambient noise outstrips the white noise. But we're doing better with finished materials. Books absorb sound, more carpet, or just these little tables for one. It's not even a carrel, it's just a 2-person seat, or the carrels along the windows, or the small art type tables. If you put 4 people at a table and they're together, they're going to talk. And if they're not together, they're not going to sit at the table together. So a table for 4 might only have 2 people at it. So might as well give them the opportunity to choose these situations. And then computers, and there's lots of ways to handle computers. Big open counters, dividers where you can't see. This one has dividers, but they're kind of transparent so that the... by the way, Sorensen is a very environmentally friendly library, and this material, this green material, is called Freeform, and it's made from recycled plastic milk cartons. And there's a lot of bamboo in there and linoleum, which is also a LEED material. Do you remember what, did Sorensen get silver or gold? Silver? Yeah. Tustin, lots of computers, but no dividers.
Silver is a minimum for county buildings.
Yeah. And this is something that your staff will pay attention to. We don't like to put adult computers where children are walking by them to get to the children's room. And we like to have some divider so that not everyone can see what everyone else is doing, but not too much of a divider that somebody can get in there and be doing something that we don't want anyone else to see what they're doing. So it's kind of a sticky issue, and the library is very sensitive to it. Laptop lanes, very popular, just a place to pop your own laptop. Lots of our customers have laptops with them now. We have so much media, different formats, DVDs, CDs, audiobooks, all has to be handled with specialty shelving, browsing bins, pull-out drawers. Lots of marketing now in the library, big signage, things on the end panels like in the bookstores. Lots of face-out materials. And then wayfinding is critical. Our customers like to come in and they like to be self-sufficient. So actually when you have a library like this where you walk in the middle and you can see the children's room is that way, the adult section is that way, it really makes for a more comfortable experience for the patrons. Good signage, Children's Learning Center. I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of tiny, but what it says on the ceiling is first stop. So you walk in the door and that's your first point of contact with a staff member. Or ask here, ask me, teen, the banners, helps you orient yourself quickly. And self-service, lots of self-service now, self-check and holds. How many of you actually use reserves and holds? Quite a few of you. Well, the one on the right, that's West Hollywood, and on that long wall, those are all the holds. It's a huge amount of holds that come from other libraries to that jurisdiction. And then automated return. This is another thing we're seeing, and I think we're starting that in Manhattan Beach, maybe. Yeah. It's literally, it's a belt, and a slot opens, and your book goes on, and in real time, it gets checked out, checked back in. If there's a reserve or a hold on it, it goes into a bin, it gets remagnetized, and it's on a book truck in minutes. And what's fun about the one on the right is that they actually have a little slot there where you can watch, like Krispy Kreme donuts. You can watch your book move along. So they found that when they put this system in place, their circulation went up. It went up really high. And they found out that there was a bunch of 6th grade boys who would go and check out a pile of books and then feed them into the slot. Check out a pile of books and then feed them into the slot. Good for the data. And then there are other spaces that we're going to want to talk about. Your meeting room, a multi-purpose room, your community information area, maybe your friends group wants a store, you want a cafe. There's a couple of ways to go with the cafe. You can actually have a cafe where you have a volunteer at a counter, there's probably a sink, and maybe they sell prepared food, they're not cooking there. The one on the right is simply vending machines and a floor that can be mopped down and hosed off. So from looking at these and your library and what we've heard so far, I think the theme is more seating, more computers, group study, more noise control, training space, more meeting space, new materials and careers and jobs. So, we have Robert kind of, and there are a couple things I want to hear from you. First of all, I want to hear your the community conversation. What does the library mean to Temple City? What are the strengths of your community? What are the weaknesses, and what could the library do to fill in some of those gaps? So, for example, do you need movie rooms? Do you need an after-school teen destination? You know, what's unique? We've got a lot of numbers here, but now we need to talk about the real people and the things. And then I'd kind of like to hear your reactions to some of the data that we looked at, and also some of the images that we just shared. So who wants to start talking about Temple City? Did you grow up here?
Yeah, I've been.
You went through all the schools here and you grew up here.
Yeah, and I came to the Temple City Library for story time.
So what are the pluses here?
Definitely the books, and the reference books. I've never tried the homework help because I don't know how it works. But and the computers, the computer access, everything is working on like that. And maybe the tables to meet, to do projects, that's useful.
This project is important to Temple City, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Want to talk about that a little bit? What difference will this project make to your community?
I think in part, the community, as you can tell, really value learning, as even especially with the change in demographics. Learning, have a place to congregate, have community functions is so very important. But I think the other part of that is that I think that a lot of people, when they talk to us council members or even when we were commissioners, they were saying that, they felt deprived. They felt that the community wasn't getting its fair share of library. They see other communities getting good. So in a lot of ways, there's a lot of pride involved in it, that we're not being valued in a sense as much as some other communities. And the other piece of that is probably more from an urban planning point of view, at least from the council, from the decision of the policymakers, in that this east side of downtown really don't have as much amenities as some of the other parts. We don't have a lot of retail businesses and so forth. And we really see this as an opportunity to revitalize this section of town.
Who else wants to talk about this? You want to talk about it a little bit?
I just wanted to say, I'm a Parks and Recreation Commissioner, and we're currently trying to possibly have some new parks in the area. And a lot of it is, I think, with Temple City, because it's such a great community, our population has increased largely in a very short amount of time. So basically, we're outgrowing the space we have. We're outgrowing our park space, we're outgrowing our libraries, just because the population is growing so fast. Really doesn't have anything to do with the housing prices. I mean, if people want to move and live here, they're going to pay whatever it costs. And a lot of people, that's what they do. They will move here because we have great schools. That's a big plus. So I think with the library, we really have to continue to service the community. I think right now it is overused. there's not enough space. You can see that by all the, but it's also with a lot of other things in Temple City, because we're just kind of landlocked. There is no open space, there's no land. And I think people are just realizing it's a great place to live. That's why we have so many people that are moving here.
No, I think the housing price is just a key indicator that people are willing to pay what they have to
And
pay.
it's, I mean, I don't know if Rita can, but it doesn't really, people are still buying. People are still buying.
Oh, yeah.
It's not slowing it down. Houses are selling very fast. Put them on the market and they're gone.
I wish I had bought some here.
So it's not, I mean, which is great. I mean, our housing prices
Not too late.
are double, triple. But yeah, I mean, if people want to live here, they're going to buy it, no matter what.
And I know your schools are outstanding, and your children's support, additional educational support.
So I think maybe we've just outgrown it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it looked like, all of the surveys.
Yeah.
And the library is outdated, very, very extremely outdated, very behind.
Prison-like.
Prison-like.
It's kind of ugly.
We've heard worse than that, believe me.
Just looking at the photos. It's pretty.
Yeah. And the thing with buildings built in this era is they were not designed to be flexible. Everything was bolted down, and if you look at all the new models, they're infinitely flexible in terms of needing spaces and moving things around, and you've got a reptile dude and there's suddenly 200 kids in the space. So talk to me a little more about Temple City. Did you grow up here and now you work here?
Yeah, no, I grew up here. My mom still lives in Temple City, so I visit a lot. I only moved away like 5 years ago. But yeah, I feel like the library is a definite heart of the community, maybe one of the hearts. And I just feel like there's a lot of opportunities here, especially because of the big kind of language, cultural barrier kind of thing. I thought it was super interesting what you brought up. Like, I never would have known that people need to be taught how to, use the library and get a library card. That was kind of like big information for me. So like the outreach piece sounds really critical. I think the library is a good bridging opportunity in Temple City because it's like kind of an equalizer for people to use the services. I guess for me, the really interesting opportunity, I think, is you have this awesome park, this awesome view, and there's no big connection. There's the windows. But I would really push everyone to consider going up because for me, the big opportunity is, I don't know if you've been to the Alhambra Library, but they super revamped their library, built a second story structure, and they have like an outdoor kind of veranda, like a reading patio. And so here, the San Gabriel Mountains are like a giant asset that's never really taken advantage of. And so I think if you could have an outdoor reading patio combined with the cafe, all that kind of stuff, I think people nowadays want more space choices. So I'm totally one of those, like, I want the quiet, I want the little kids separated, like that. But yeah, and because I think people want options, they'll go to the loud, they'll go to the quiet, but to go outdoors would be amazing.
Your program attendance is pretty good, and a lot of people asked about cultural and art opportunities. Is that something that's a little bit missing in the community, that the library, for example, are there galleries here, are there performance spaces?
We really don't have any performance arts. That's something we'd love to bring, and that's part of the our vision is that we can never redo our Civic Center. Then we have a multi-purpose room that can lend itself to a purpose like that.
So that is a need.
That's definitely a need. We really don't have any large gathering spaces, with the exception of Lipo Park Community Center, that we can have any meaningful, dining or something within the city.
So that's a weakness in the city that
Yeah.
the library should pay attention to.
Yeah, actually, I also want to point out that going back to what Nan said earlier about population growth, there really was a growth from, in the 1970s, I'm reading from the city census, we have 29,000 people. 2010, we have 35. So we have grown, but actually not as much as the library users. So while we do have a lot of growth, but I think the library use even gone up even more. I think it's really reflective of the community's emphasis on library. For whatever reason, I mean, people just love our libraries, in spite of other limitations. So I imagine if we ever have the opportunity of a new library, this will be extremely, extremely popular. Though I'm sure the mayor would agree with me, when we walk the streets and stuff, doing campaigning or do normally when people get in touch with folks in the city, a lot of them would suggest it would be nice to have. And this is one of the things that people tend to bring up is it's nice to have a good library.
And I think for me what's so telling also is that when data is so important and it drives, for me anyway, being in education, it drives so much just what you're going to teach children. And, you evaluate them, where are they and where they need to be and, where you're going to take them. But the data here shows us that we have an extremely active population who uses the library. We're on the top of the charts. That's a given. We're on the top of the charts for home values. We're on the top of the charts. We're one of the top school districts. In California, but take that even broader, we're nationwide. And you look at all those variables, and then we have our library. Very sterile. And just thinking about what you said is, when you came into Temple City, you thought, wow, it's so well maintained and it's so nice. So the expectation, if I was just coming to the city and I drove in and I knew all that, I wanted to buy a house, I would say, I want to see the library. I would be so disheartened and so totally disappointed because it's such a disconnect for what this city is, where it's going, the population that we have, the emphasis on education. When you look at our schools, and we have such top-rated schools, and you see that our library is so impacted, it's really disheartening to see that we don't have a facility that meets the needs of this community.
I think the community also recognizes that if you look at the Temple City Unified School District, they just passed a bond measure last year. They approved $128 million to renovate all their schools and add to their schools. I mean, it's a lot of burden in this sort of economic downtime, but it really goes to show you the determination of the community that they want better schools, better education. And schools and libraries, they just go along with each other. And I am sure if we were to do a survey out there and then ask them if we want to pay money, I would imagine some people might even want to do that, but that's a separate discussion for a different time. But I think that similar bond measure really tells you the community is really into education and learning.
And it's relaxation.
Yeah.
For me, I'm retired. I love to read. And thinking about what you said, when we built our home here in Temple City 28 years ago, my daughter said, I want to be able to look at the mountains, but I need a window seat because that's where I'm going to read. And she's 31, and when she comes back home at Christmas time and she's there at Christmas, I'm like, where's Has anybody seen Brittany? And she's on the window seat reading, looking at the mountains. And she's gone and I sit on the window seat. That's where I read, looking at the mountains. But it's relaxation. It's you know, a library is so
family
much.
building.
Yes, it
You
is.
were talking about your mom used to read you a story time, and there's something here for the whole family. Let me talk to one of the students. What difference would a library have made, a different library, when you were in high school? Or were you able to use this one? Did you come here pretty regularly? Who's the senior? So you're in the middle of, you're finishing up your SATs and your boards and are you doing college applications?
Yeah,
Do you work on that at home, or do you come here? Do you work at school?
I do come here sometimes to just, get away from my family.
Those 3.19 people in your house, right?
But yeah, I do come here just to get a bit of quiet time, but I would really like it if little kids weren't, doing their thing, just like running around. Yeah, so I'd say definitely a quiet space would be good.
You like quiet too. Are there more extended families in this community? I'm just curious because your household size is larger, but you have a lower percentage of families with children at home. So are there grandmas in this house?
Grandparents.
Grandparents.
Yeah, usually multi-generation family, grandma, grandpa.
Let me just write down that 18 months quiet. I haven't heard that for a while. So what would the library be for a multi-generational family? A whole family house? And probably the grandma is not reading in English.
3 years ago, I moved from Pamato. They have city, Pamato, they have many libraries. Many libraries run by the Pamato city. And because Chinese people, some have 3 generations, so the grandma, grandpa, they don't know any English, so they come to library to read the Chinese paper. Sometimes we need to wait. My mother need to wait when my mother comes with me. She need to wait for Chinese paper. And so I think simply to say, I think a library should help different people. And Temple City, they have a lot of immigrations. A lot of them are Chinese. And for English, for me, not a big problem. But for many of my friends, the parents, mostly the mother or father or both of them, they cannot speak English. They cannot use it. No matter how good the books is, how good the facility is, they cannot use it. They don't know how to use it. You see so many people come here. They come to enjoy the air conditioner. Then kids come to listen to story time because the children program in Temple City is the best around. I know my friend come from Arcadia to here to listen to story time. And the lady here is the best. And the summer program, like this year, the summer program here is the best around here. I go to Arcadia Library, I go to the Alhambra Library. The children's summer program here is the best. And I think it depends on the people, the librarian, because she is so warm heart and she's love children, so she put a lot of effort on help children. But she cannot speak Chinese, so when summertime they have the volunteer. Some volunteer, high school volunteers, they can use both languages to help the kids. And sometimes they need to use computer to key in how many reading hours. The children don't know how to do, they cannot use computer. So I think if you want this library can improve, the main point is helping them. Helping the people cannot use English. And there's 50% more of people here.
Yeah.
And if you cannot do that. No matter how program it is, no matter how computer it is, the people cannot use it. They come here, they have they bring their young kids to like every morning you can see another parent with their young kids. That's me, and I don't know, maybe the housewife to enjoy it, but they just and they have many toys in the. That's why it's so noisy because they have bought many children toys. The kids, they say they love here because they can kids can play the library toys. They have play time here in this room full of toys. The kids can in here and play, and they love this area. But they say they don't like the Arcadia library because they don't have place for children to play, and the children can But so for these people, they come here to use this. Parents, they come here to let their children can play in here, but mostly they don't buy the books. They don't know how to use library time.
But they bring their children.
Yeah, they play in here, and like me, I need to use Arcadia library because they have more volume book. And my teenager, when she's high school, she needs doing the AP world history, then she needs to do some research. She will not come here to buy a book because there's not enough book for her, for high school student, for advanced, for audio book or for DVD or nothing. But I love this library because the children program. The library in here, she's like some. I don't know who plan this, but they give kids more toys. They award kids if they can read it. They give them a lot of toys and they can read. But the other library not like this so generous. And so really, and so I encourage my friends to take their kids to come here. But most of the parents, because they don't know English, they just So it's so PPS.
The children's program here has a huge great reputation.
Joanne is one of our master children's librarians. She trains in the whole county library system. So yeah, she's very good.
So we looked at a whole bunch of images. Computer labs, big computer centers. What's your experience here in this community? Do people have laptops and they come with Wi-Fi, or is this a
Internet is very slow.
Oh, the internet is slow here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very, very slow.
Well, we can fix that. Okay.
It's super slow.
Would you see this as a library that needed more owned computers, or just to accommodate people in comfortable chairs where there's good Wi-Fi?
I heard like LA County Public School, elementary schools, they give each kid a free iPad.
That's LA City.
Yeah,
that's not us.
There's one thing called school kids can have iPad. And they probably could do this.
But I think speaking for the seniors, perhaps, I think some of them don't always have a computer in their home, so.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of them said this is where they come and get access.
In some of the branches now, they have like a little vending machine with laptops in it. And you come in and you swipe your library card and the laptop comes out. And then you can take it anywhere in the building. It's checked out to you. When you're done, you put it back in. It wipes out the hard drive, so if you left any personal information there, it's gone, and it recharges it. So instead of seeing these long rows and rows and tables of computers, which maybe I don't want to sit next to her. She's clicking away or watching a movie or something. I can go to the chair at the window or the tablet arm, or I can go into the group study room, etc. So again, that's another concept of flexibility versus putting a hard machine in a carrel, hardwired to the floor with a chair there, and that's all that can be in that space. It's not that. So that would be interesting. Think about that between now and when we meet again. How you would see this community going, and also, maybe we can anecdotally figure out: are there a lot of laptops in town? Not so many. The training, you can do training in a room like this too, you don't have to have it set up as a classroom. So think about that, think about the teams, the team space. The team space now is really quite good. It is probably one of the best places in the building. Those refurnished and refurbished. More parking. Well, okay, let me write that down, parking. How did you all feel about that cafe concept?
I like it, sure.
You did, okay.
Coffee and sandwich.
Coffee and a sandwich, okay. What else? Let's close with, what is your library going to look like in 5 years?
Maybe 5-star, maybe 3-star above the ground and 2-star under. So keep the kids area, you know, down below. Maybe like a parking structure and or you know, standard construction outside. Because I don't want to take room from the park, because without the park. And I don't know how we're going to get the room if we don't build up or down.
So you want acoustic separation. You don't want all those green space. That everyone feels that way. You don't care about the grass, it has to be mowed anyway. Okay, so we want to preserve the green space. This is a tough list you've come up with, and you want parking. Preserve the green space.
How about underground parking and
Yeah, it's the same. See, like the Alhambra library, it's a big library, but they have underground parking.
Well, and somebody talked about indoor-outdoor space, indoor-outdoor courtyards and all that.
Like reading garden, outdoor patio garden, travelers.
Koi pond.
If you're in that neck of the woods, Diamond Bar just opened a new library in a remodeled building, but they put out a courtyard, a reading garden. Is it off the teen room?
No, it's off the adult area. The Friends of the Library funded it, and actually they said the adults wanted it for their reading purposes. So
And they have a view, they're up in the mountains.
they're up off of, if you go down the 60 freeway and you pass the AQMD building, it's across the street from the AQMD building. It was an office building that was purchased by the city for their city hall, and then we took the first floor and completely renovated it.
Okay, so far the vision has acoustical separation, preserving green space with more parking and maybe some reading gardens. I heard the cafe. You like the magical spaces? Do you like the really flexible spaces? I showed you some pretty modern stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of new libraries are awesome space-wise, but they kind of lack like a special human touch, I think. I think a nice goal would be to still be kind of intimate and cozy, but offer a lot of different little spaces so you can choose, rather than like this factory of computers, and then like, it always feels like you're going into a giant institution, you know. That just happens to be a library. I feel like that's the open plan thing.
Yeah.
I feel like this library could be more like a tree house kind of. You know, whatever the bottom floor is, I feel like, I guess the reason why, I think a second floor is really interesting because for some reason there's really no public place like that in like all of San Gabriel Valley. I don't know, unless you go to PCC, you just kind of can't get that view, and not till I was way older did I realize, oh my God, there's a view like that when you go up to the 5th floor, you know, and so why shouldn't a civic building offer that kind of thing? And the computer thing, I feel like it kind of needs to be a lot for everyone. Like I'm a laptop user, that's what I feel like, you know, like there's like that concept of the third place. We have home, we have work, or like we have home, we have school, and then you want to get out and be in a third place. And I feel like more and more people want that because they're like attached to the computer. So for me, this is like the workplace, because I do garden design. But I
Excuse
need,
me, wait, did you plant him in the?
I didn't, but he's really good. So.
This
He's
is
a
the
landscape
talk
architect.
that she's given before
Oh, okay.
about the third place.
Oh, okay.
And the library as the third place.
Yeah.
no, well,
Checks in the mail.
no. But I would just say dream big, because I feel like this community is willing to contribute and give money to build that place. And so like I've been to San Marino, I know, you know, they have way more money, but they built that library. And I feel like something of a really special scale is not impossible in Temple City, because people value education so much. And like, I think almost 10 years ago, I'm not sure, what I helped the Friends of the Library put on this, we call it like the biggest book sale ever. And it was just sort of small scale, but when I walked around to like the different restaurants, that's when like the new Chinese restaurants were more of like a new thing. And we were simply asking like, can we put a flyer in your window? And the lady who is the owner of the Mandarin Noodle Deli, you know, she moved now. She was just like, oh, very important, and she just dropped me $1,000 check right there. So,
Really?
So this dinky book sale raised like over $3,000 in a weekend, because people bought like 50-cent books and then also gave money for the library.
Absolutely. Well, you can tell by the bond measure
Yeah.
how important education is to this community. They want strong schools, and then they want a strong library. And they pay a lot of money for their houses. So there is money.
By the way, San Marino was no cakewalk. It took almost 11 years to get the money to build that library. Even though the money was there, it didn't like flow out
Right.
easily.
Sure,
It was very hard to get that project done.
But space-wise, I'm surprised, like, I guess I go there, I feel like it's always crowded. I feel like they could use more space. Because if the square footage is including the meeting rooms and the upper spaces, which
You don't get
generally I
benefit,
can't
yeah.
use, I feel like they totally need more space. So I feel like Temple City could use that at least.
Well, and we can also send you a list of libraries in various sizes, so you can get the feel of what 12, well, you know what 12 is, what 15 is. The library in Tustin, which opened last year, was one of my projects, and I had another client come who was sure he wanted a 30,000 square foot library. So he flew down from Sacramento, and we went out to Tustin, and we walked in the door, and his eyes popped out, and he said, "We don't want this is way too big. It's huge, you walk in the middle." So imagine your building times 2.5, and you're in the middle, and you're looking at 15,000 square feet this way and that way, and the staff could barely, I don't know if you saw, Fred came to the dedication with me.
But I've seen testimony.
It's huge.
It's huge.
And it's a long, and impossible to staff that much. And when you think about all that extra space, it's also people, it's staff moving as fast as they can.
But Yolanda, I said I wasn't going to say anything, but now I can't help myself. A lot of it too is how you design the space.
Yes.
You know, because there's libraries where I walk in and it's so much wasted space. They're brand new buildings, and the jurisdiction has spent so much money, and it's just not used. It's hard to do. And there's others that are just such usable space that they work really well. So that's one of the concerns I always have is to make sure the person we have designing it is really innovative and listens to the community, and also that we make the best use of the space and don't waste it. Like, sometimes they have such big lobbies and things.
Right.
And they don't need that.
La Crescenta is definitely worth visiting because it's 2 stories, and it sort of fits into the landscape.
This story, though, presents a supervision issue, staffing
Yeah.
issue. Because actually, the La Crescenta Library actually gone through multiple iterations through the design process of scaling it down.
But it ended up with
cost
the
cutting
meeting
as
room
well.
is one whole floor.
Right. That was the most meaningful way.
And that's how they solved that problem,
Yeah.
was to put the meeting room on the second floor so that that area doesn't have to be supervised.
You were saying gave a library close to it that people might have been as meeting on the same
Yeah.
floor as well.
So given the space that we have, not a whole lot, it really needs to be flexible. Flexible design, I think.
Yeah. Did you like those group study rooms?
Definitely.
Yeah, the small meeting.
I use them a lot. Every like Monrovia has them, Arcadia has them. Every library you go,
And they're
they're
always
in
full.
demand.
Yeah.
There's always a list of meetings too.
Yeah. And then in terms of the meeting room, the program space, this is interesting because it would really want to be well coordinated with the whole Civic Center. A lot of libraries now want to, Altadena wants a 300-seat meeting room because there's nothing else in that community. You have, it says 100 there, but this room is really sized for about 65 or 70 people. And based on the population, you might want 100 or 150. But is that too small? Does this community, you said you have one large gathering place in town. So is that a general need for the whole community? Is that a space that would be used by
But that
others?
place is always full up, like on parking centers. But
It's
there are a lot of
always-
community groups that we may not have heard of. They have lots of meetings, they have dances, they have, I mean, groups such as like International Photographers Association, whatever, they come and actually meet at Life Park. I mean, we just don't have enough community spaces.
Was that something that should stay on the list and maybe be a little bigger than the guidelines?
I think so.
I feel like you could have film, movie screenings, but it'd be nice to be dividable into smaller,
Right, of course.
like historical society.
So if we're looking at what could have been 29,000 and maybe it's 24 or 25, so we have to do like a little gentle shaving on some things. Maybe the meeting room is something we don't shave down. Maybe the meeting room actually is a little bit bigger. If that's a general community need, that would be something that we would say, no, we gotta keep that.
29,000 is a big building.
It's a very,
It's a very big building, and I think people who are so used to this building, I mean, this building is only about 8,000 plus or minus, I think. So to go to 29 is like 3-4 times. And my feeling is that the community probably will be receptive to anything bigger than what we have. Doesn't necessarily need to go up to 29, 25. I don't, personally, I don't think so.
20 is the nice size level.
And we can have a 14, 15,000, I'll be happy, honestly. Anything like percent of the library, I'm very happy with that, personally.
This is 12.
12.
This one is 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think you have to keep in mind, if it becomes a really cool library, then it draws people from everywhere else. Cause like
That too.
Because I go everywhere else right now. Like, I go to Monrovia, I go to Pasadena, so it's that kind of thing.
These different libraries offer different things.
Any new building we use can typically triple.
Sure.
And we have data on that from libraries before and after. And we're seeing like 600, 700,000 visits a year, up to 1 million on some of these new ones that had in the 70,000s the year before they closed and opened them in much smaller communities than this. So that's where you need to be prepared. It becomes off the charts.
So do you have a library that's comparable to like twice the size? I'm just saying twice the size, I mean,
You mean like a 20,000? Yeah, we could make those.
where you could see like what they have, what could fit in there. I mean, I know that with a small space you can really utilize it. An expert can really go in there and, you know, but it'd be nice to see.
We're actually going to do a space needs for you, which will be like a series of menus that total up to 19, 21, 22,000, and you can see this one has 100 seats, this one has 120,000 volumes, this has group studies.
Yeah.
I
I just think it'd be nice to see what you could fit in that space.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, right now I'm just kind of thinking, okay, twice as big. What does that mean?
And when you do twice as big, you don't get twice as much, because you're gonna have to comply with some disabled access issues that you don't have now. A bigger meeting room means much bigger toilet rooms. You have 2 stalls here now. So if you were building today with a 100-seat meeting room, you're gonna lose a chunk of new space for now.
Now, is there a parking code that you have to, or how many visitors and parking? Is there anything?
Yes, there is.
I'm assuming there is, because there is for everything else.
Yes, there is.
And it's not really, well, the county can do anything the county wants to for the county building, but truthfully, that's really a decision you would work with the city on, because you're one of those communities where you're dense, you're populated, so could you ever get enough parking space? You know, I don't know the formula, but so it's really something the city would have to talk about it, and the community think about what's right for the community.
Yeah, we do have, at least an initial thought, the Civic Center Plan was some sort of joint use agreement between the county and the city, because we peak at different hours. Because the City Hall, generally, we only have visitors, intermittently during the day. It's only at night when we have community events, then it's where we have a lot more people. So there's a potential, if there's a joint use, potentially, that we can have a much smaller underground parking that we share, which was, during the day, we filled up with library patrons.
It's 24,000, but it's on 1 floor. San Marino is 29,000. So when you go to 2 floors, you're going to lose a lot of your usable space, because you can have stairwells, emergency exits, you can have an elevator and elevator machinery. So if you took 12,000 square feet and doubled it, but stacked it, you're not going to get 24,000 worth, you're going to get about 19,000 worth. Do we have emails for everybody here?
Yes.
So if I generated a sort of a take yourself on a tour list with some features to look at, like if you go to Sorensen, look at the lead materials. If you go here, look at what it's like to have the meeting room. We could send you on a brand new 15,000 square foot building will be much more efficient than this. But it won't hold as much because you're going to have issues with laying things out for disabled access, and you're going to have more bathrooms, and et cetera, et cetera. So we'll get that out quickly. Before we lose the crowd, October 10th, it's about a month. It's a Thursday, it's a month from tonight.
Well,
I thought it was the 4th. Third.
The meeting was set for October 3rd, but I think there might be a conflict. If October 10th doesn't work for everyone.
I won't be here, you know.
I know. So,
That's why we put it on the 3rd, because I won't be here.
Oh, you won't be here?
I won't be here.
All right, well, we'll keep it on the 3rd. No, you need to be here. Not a problem. Okay. Keep the room.